Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, I'm just about to set off here in Athens, but I have a bunch of news today. Everything from canceled cruises to, we're not going to be held responsible to, we can't go there from here. So as I reported earlier, we have Holland America's Westerdam had two issues with its propulsion. It had the Pod issue, which affects its speed and its maneuverability, while they say there's no danger or safety to anybody on board, which is, very factual because these ships have had those issues lots and lots of times before, and really basically it just means they can't go as fast as they would like to go. So there's really no safety issue involved there. However, because of this, they had to head back and they ended up missing two ports of call. And one, they didn't miss, but they did. One of them was Victoria, BC, but they actually stopped there for an hour and then left. And that was the entire reason for when they have to go to a foreign port before returning. An American cruise ship cannot leave, any cruise ship cannot leave from port and stay only in the United States unless it's a registered United States vessel. So they had to stop in Victoria, BC for a whole hour, and passengers got to look outside and say, hey, there's where we could be. I know it's not a laughing matter, but I'd be a little bit more concerned now if I had my cruise coming up on the next days on this ship, because who knows what they may have to cancel on this one. We all know the Royal Caribbean ended up canceling glacier stops on one of their ships. Well, will that be the case on the Westerdam? We're not sure, but if they have trouble making speed, you can pretty much guarantee something has got to give. And if they don't have those fixed by the next sailing, which I believe it will be today. So we'll see what happens with the Westerdam. We also have some other news where the Norwegian Star just notified their passengers who had just got on board. Yeah, that Greenland, Iceland, once in a lifetime dream vacation you're thinking of? Yeah, we're not going to Greenland. Now, I do not blame Norwegian whatsoever on this one because there is a major storm around Greenland. So they have canceled the Greenland stops and substituted them with Norwegian stops. They've also offered other compensation as well. In any case of going into a storm or weather, safety should always be the priority. The Norwegian Star isn't exactly the largest cruise ship in the world. You definitely don't want to be in rough waters on the smaller ships. You will notice it. I was on one of the larger ships in the world when we got caught and outran a typhoon in Japan. And passengers all over that ship were getting sick from the seasickness while we tried to outrun it, which we did, however. But that was a huge, huge cruise ship. And the smaller ones would be twice as bad because they get tossed around a lot in rough weather. And in any case, safety should always be the #1 priority, not getting to a cruise port. So in this case, you cannot blame the cruise line for making the safer choice. It's disappointing, yes. I've had those disappointments in the past as well, where my main destination I took the cruise for ended up not being the one we went to. I booked a Norwegian cruise on a Princess cruise ship. There was an Atlantic storm and we couldn't get there, so we ended up in Spain. So talk about two different destinations. Norway and Spain, completely different. But we knew it's much better than sailing into a hurricane. So no fault here for Norwegian at all. Now I also have a kind of an interesting story about all those cars that were broken into from a Carnival cruise when in the cruise port. And we have a Royal Caribbean ship that, it's not going to be sailing the entire 2023 where it was scheduled to sail. But before I get there, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button if you want to be kept up to date with all things cruising, like why this ship isn't going to Greenland, what's happening with the Westerdam, what's happening with Quantum of the Seas, what's happening with all the ships when there's a little bit of an issue going on, and new protocols, etc. We're hearing new protocols now being extended for Bermuda. All kinds of things, folks. And it's best to be kept completely up to date. You do that, just hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost a thing. Helps grow the channel. Helps tell YouTube people love cruising videos. And I hope you'll continue along and enjoy the information, because even though it seems like the pandemic is sort of over, it's definitely not when you actually go on these cruises. There's still a lot to think about. Okay, Royal Caribbean just announced that their entire 2023 European season on the Serenade of the Seas, yeah, it's been canceled. It will no longer be sailing because it had premier stops. Where else? Going to St. Petersburg, where most places have canceled their cruises all of 2023. Instead, the ship will now be sailing out of Florida. Now, the ship is scheduled to leave in Florida in February, March time anyway to be there. So they may just keep it in Tampa Bay, Florida, or they might move it to another port in Florida. We're not sure yet. It kind of seems like it might make sense to be in Tampa. So, a good new ship, good new old ship in Tampa is always a good thing for the people on that side of Florida looking for something a little bit different. So Serenade of the Sea, yeah, no more Baltic sailings in 2023 on that ship. Speaking of protocols, we have Carnival Cruise Line just updated their Bermuda cruises. Anything going to or leaving from Bermuda, you still will have to take that antigen test before going to the ship. No exceptions before going ashore. This is nothing new. Everyone's been taking tests, but everyone's been hoping testing is going to stop in the United States. That's the big push right now. Maybe not end vaccinations yet, but end the testing ahead of time. But it looks like they are extending that because Bermuda is insisting on this. In fact, it is scheduled to last all the way until December 31st, 2022. So any hopes that it will end anytime soon for those destinations seems to be wishful thinking on our part, I think. So that might be a sign that maybe testing might be around at least till the end of this year, even though I hope not. And I hope this isn't a sign for everywhere, but this is the first one that's extended it that long going forward. With all the talk about ending testing, they won't end testing if the country you're going to isn't going to allow it. So yeah, we're kind of stuck there. And then let's talk about Norfolk. Norfolk City Council just announced that those passengers who had their cars broken into with damage done while they were out on a cruise in the cruise parking lot, yeah, they're not going to, city's not liable. The city is not liable. The lawyer for Norfolk City Council came out and said there is no clear indication that any of the damage or vandalism was because of neglect, or basically saying that there's nothing that they were doing wrong that caused this damage. There was no deficiencies in their system, and therefore they are not responsible. Passengers will have to look after this themselves. Okay, so they did nothing wrong. There's no fault in the system. Somehow it just happened. And then they went on to say, we did notice a couple things, like the security company that we hired wasn't really doing enough tours through the parking lot like they were supposed to. Oh, and there was this gap in the fence that people could just squeeze through to get into the parking lot. But don't worry, there was no deficiencies in our plan, and there was no error in our system. But those things those were there, but we fixed them now. So don't worry now if you park there, though that won't happen again. I don't know. I don't know if you should actually come out and say there were deficiencies at the same time you were saying there was no deficiencies, and that's why you're not paying. I don't understand. How can you come out and say those things? What are you, dumb? Yeah, there was no problems in the system. We are not responsible. Everything we did was perfect, but we did notice that we weren't going through the parking lot enough. And hey, there were gaps in the fence. But hey, we didn't do anything wrong. We just didn't build the fence all the way to the wall, and we just didn't go through the parking lot enough. But that wasn't our fault. But it was a deficiency, but it's not. It's just a typical government thing that says, hey, it's not our fault. It's got to be somebody else's. We did everything possible, except those things that we didn't do. I just thought you might find that funny. You know who doesn't find that funny? The people who had their cars broken into. And it's already been a month. So chances are you've already gone out and paid to get your own car fixed anyway. You know, a lot of people think that, you know, when you see a sign up on the wall that says not responsible for lost or damaged items, that usually scares people off, and people will go and complain, and they'll say, no, look, the sign's right there, folks, not responsible. Well, in reality, in most cases, in a lot of countries, by law, just putting up a sign does not negate your responsibility for the items you're accepting. Just letting you know that, Norfolk City Council. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.